Okay, Helmut, I've got you a brake booster finished. As you can see, changed the can and the J-bolts and the nuts, the bleed screws and the lock jam nut here all have the proper plating on them. The screws right here, proper plating on them. I did not have another fitting like this to swap out, so I just left yours alone along with the air filter assembly. I got the properly plated plug here, and got the plug on the inside of the vacuum can where it's supposed to be, because your booster originally was designed to use a leather diaphragm and have this port accessible for filling with mineral oil to lube the leather diaphragm, and your booster been updated to the rubber diaphragm, which gets permanent lube, and this plug goes in from the back side so people will not mistakenly put leather mineral oil into the booster and dilute the permanent lubricant, which is in there right now. What we're going to do is test the booster using .3 brake fluid. And what's going to happen is when the vacuum pump is activated, the booster these gauges are both going to go to maximum vacuum produced by my vacuum pump. And as the booster is activated, this gauge will go to 0. The more the booster is activated, the more it goes to 0. And then when the booster is fully engaged, right at 0. Over here, we've got our hydraulic, and this is our, for instance, this is your input right here, and then the booster boosts the pressure, and this is your output. And what we're doing here is your input pressure. These two gauges are tied together. This gauge goes up, maxes out, and this gauge goes up and reads final input pressure, which is a function of my master cylinder, which is simply this lever right here. Output is what the booster is going to do, and these gauges are tied together so that this gauge goes up, maxes out, and this gauge reads final pressure. So for instance, without any vacuum, if we just activate the booster, if we just move the master cylinder, you see we've got an input pressure of 350 here, got an output of 350, and this is approximately 350, which is what the booster is designed to do when it's not in use, or if the vacuum fails, the booster simply processes brake fluid in and out. No loss of braking due to loss of vacuum. Now we're going to hit with the vacuum. Activated. Come over here. It's our release valve. Now, watch the booster. We've got 350 input, and over here, over at 7,800. So this is. Same time, we check for leaks. It's going to leak here, leak at our bleed screws, and as you had noted, it's hard to get these fittings to not leak, but just put some new copper washers on there. And if you want to check the booster while it's in the car, this top screw right here is your vacuum port, and all you got to do is unscrew that, put a vacuum gauge in there, and while the engine is running and you apply the brakes, you can watch the gauge do the same thing as this gauge right here, which is go to 0 the more the booster is activated. So right now we got you a good booster, and thank you very much for sending it to me.